December 29, 2025. Story 1. The U.S. launched airstrikes in Nigeria on Christmas Day, claiming to hit ISIS camps in Sokoto state. Trump called it a Christmas present. But the village bombed. Jabo has no recorded history of anti-Christian terrorism according to locals. Nigeria's information minister said portraying security challenges as targeting a single religious group is a gross misrepresentation. A suicide bomber separately killed 5 worshippers at a mosque the same day. U.S. Africa Command also confirmed strikes in Somalia over 4 days. A defense priorities analyst said the action violates Trump's promises to avoid risky military campaigns abroad. Takeaway: when stated justifications don't match local reality, and local officials contradict the framing, the stated rationale serves a different audience than the affected population. Story 2. Trump met Zelensky at Mar-a-Lago and announced Russia and Ukraine may be very close to a peace deal. Before the meeting, Russia launched a 10-hour drone attack on Kyiv, killing 2 and leaving hundreds of thousands without heat. Zelensky said the U.S. offered a 15-year security guarantee. He asked for 50. Trump said Putin was very generous in his feeling toward Ukraine succeeding. Takeaway: security guarantee length is the real negotiation. 15 years versus 50 determines whether Ukraine has protection beyond 1 or 2 U.S. administrations. That's the number to track, not the rhetoric. Story 3. A 30-year-old Palestinian woman was killed when a wall collapsed on her tent during winter storms. UN and Palestinian officials say 300,000 tents are urgently needed for 1.5 million displaced people. Israel continues blocking shelter imports. Al-Adha Hospital suspended services due to fuel shortage. Human rights groups marked 1 year since Israeli forces seized Drive. Hussam Abu Safia from Kamal Adwan Hospital. He's been held without trial ever since with deteriorating health. He's among 430 health workers abducted by Israel since October 2023. Takeaway: 430 health workers abducted is systematic, not incidental. 1 year of detention without trial for a hospital director is the system functioning as designed. Story 4. 2 Israelis were killed in a car ramming and stabbing attack in Afula. Israel is demolishing the attacker's home and raiding Kabadia in the West Bank. The day before, an Israeli army reservist was caught on video ramming his vehicle into a Palestinian man praying on the roadside, after being filmed earlier shooting at residents. Israel suspended his reservist status and gave him 5 days house arrest. Takeaway: demolishing a family home versus 5 days house arrest for the same type of attack tells you how the system values different lives. The disparity is the policy. Story 5. Netanyahu arrived in Florida for his Mar-a-Lago meeting. Flight tracking shows his aircraft crossed Greek, Italian, and French airspace. All 3 are ICC Rome Statute signatories obligated to arrest him on his war crimes warrant. NBC reports Netanyahu plans to brief Trump on attacking Iran again, citing repairs to its nuclear program after earlier strikes. Takeaway: Rome Statute signatories allowing transit without arrest tells you ICC enforcement depends on political will, not legal obligation. The Iran briefing signals the next escalation being planned. Story 6. Israel became the first and only nation to recognize the breakaway Somali region of Somaliland as a sovereign state. UN members criticized the move given Israel's refusal to recognize Palestine. Takeaway: recognition is a political tool, not a principled position. The asymmetry is the point. Story 7. The UN warns renewed violence in Sudan's western and southern regions displaced over 10,000 people in 3 days. Fighting continues between the army and RSF near the Chad border and in famine-stricken South Kordofan. Takeaway: displacement numbers compound. The famine region seeing intensified fighting means the worst-off population faces further destabilization. Story 8. Burma's military held the first elections since the 2021 coup. Only about a third of eligible voters participated. Dozens of townships under opposition control were entirely excluded. The UN Special Rapporteur said, an election organized by a junta that bombs civilians, jails political leaders, and criminalizes dissent is not an election, it's theater of the absurd performed at gunpoint. Takeaway: when the UN official uses language like theater of the absurd, that's the international community documenting illegitimacy for future reference. The election produces a result without producing legitimacy. Story 9. Thailand and Cambodia's foreign ministers met in Beijing after signing a ceasefire to end weeks of fighting that killed over 100 and displaced 500,000. China is providing the platform for negotiations. Trump claimed the U.S. has become the real United Nations, boasting about a July ceasefire that later collapsed. Takeaway: China mediating while the U.S. claims credit for a failed ceasefire shows who's doing the work versus who's doing the talking. Track who convenes versus who announces. Story 10. British Egyptian activist Alaa Abd El Fattah arrived in the UK after Egypt lifted his travel ban. He was a leading voice in the 2011 Arab Spring and was sentenced to 5 years for a Facebook post. UK conservatives are calling to revoke his citizenship. He apologized for some past posts while saying others are being deliberately weaponized. Takeaway: activists released from one authoritarian system can face immediate pressure in their destination country. The fight doesn't end at the border. Story 11. Virginia man Brian Cole Jr. confessed to placing pipe bombs at RNC and DNC headquarters the night before January 6. He told the FBI something just snapped and alleged the 2020 election was tampered with. Former prosecutors warned Trump's broad January 6 pardons might cover his crimes. Takeaway: the pardon scope question is now being tested. If bomb placement the night before qualifies, the pardon covers more than riot participation. Story 12. Trump complained about DOJ releasing 1 million more Epstein files, calling it a Democrat-inspired hoax and asking when they'd work on election fraud instead. Congressman Massey, co-sponsor of the Transparency Act, criticized Bondi for redacting names of accused sex offenders using old rules overridden by the new law. Journalist Julie Brown, whose reporting led to Epstein's arrest, discovered her own flight booking information in the files attached to a grand jury subpoena and asked why DOJ was monitoring her. Takeaway: Trump calling the Epstein release a hoax while files show his own flight records as a tell. A journalist finding her own surveillance in the files shows the investigation's scope included people investigating Epstein. Both details matter. Story 13. The Lumbee tribe secured federal recognition 137 years after first petitioning Congress. Trump signed the Lumbee Fairness Act. The tribe, now the largest east of the Mississippi with nearly 60,000 members, gains access to federal resources for education, housing, and healthcare. Takeaway: 137 years from petition to recognition. Persistence across generations can eventually succeed. The timeline is brutal, but the outcome is real. Story 14. Palestinian actor and filmmaker Mohammed Bakri died at 72. He appeared in over 40 films and directed documentaries on Palestinian life under occupation, including the 2002 documentary Jenin about the refugee camp after an Israeli operation killed 52 Palestinians. He said, "I was humiliated as a human being. How can people do such things?" Takeaway: documentation of atrocities outlives the documentarians. His work remains. That's December 29th.